everybody, how are you all? Welcome to the second episode of the Reflections on South Korea vlog series, where I talk about my time teaching in South Korea in 4 different settings. The first episode was about my time teaching in a public school through the EPIC program, and today I'm going to be talking about my year teaching in a really corporate academy or hagwon. Hagwons are commonly known as cram schools, and cram schools are really popular in Korea because a lot of parents will work late and they will send their kids to these cram schools to do supplementary lessons on anything ranging from English, public speaking, maths, history, science. There are so many different hagwons, and one of the biggest hagwon industries right now is in English learning. A lot of these hagwons, very similar to the EPIC program, will fly teachers over to their academy so that they can have fluent and native English speakers in their lessons so that kids can be more immersed. I ended up at a really big corporate hagwon that has more than 200 schools just in South Korea. They also have schools around the world, but they are very strict in the way that they want their lessons in English presented. They have 2 main programs. One is for kindergarteners and the other is for elementary to middle schoolers. When you get hired at this hagwon, you get assigned to a certain branch. The branch can literally be anywhere all over Korea, but most of them are based in Seoul and in the surrounding Gyeonggi-do areas. After getting assigned to the school and having your contract all signed and ready to go, they will bring you in for orientation. During the orientation, it is very tough. This hagwon has a very specific mold that they want teachers to fit into, and if the teachers don't fit into that energetic, talkative kind of mold, it can be a little bit difficult for certain teachers to pass the training process. If you're a more attention down teacher and you're a calmer kind of teacher, they might not like your teaching style. What was also really difficult about the work training is that there are certain lessons and certain topics that you have to talk about. They have a set curriculum and a set syllabus. You essentially have to memorize how to teach everything and also a lot of general facts about topics that you need to teach, but maybe you don't know anything about that. So that requires a lot of prep. When you're actually teaching, we got to teach with tablets, and students would also have tablets that were linked into the same teaching system, so they're able to look at the worksheets or the readings through their tablet, and you as a teacher, you have control over the tablets and also over the TV. When I was working in this hagwon, they did provide me with housing, and my housing was about 5-minute walk from the actual office. I liked where I was living a lot. I was living in the Gwangyo area, which is just a little bit outside of Suwon in Gyeonggi-do, south of Seoul, and I really liked my area because it was a newer area, so the streets were wider, very clean. A lot of families lived there, and it was essentially kind of like the suburbs, but because Seoul is so well connected, I was able to take a subway train up to the main area of Seoul in about like 40 minutes to an hour. It was very convenient. After teaching a whole year in the public school system where we started around 7 or 8 and ended near 4 in the afternoon, I was really excited to have a work schedule where I could sleep in. So I would sleep in until 10 or 11 every day. I could run errands, go to the bank, do a workout in the morning, and then around 1 o'clock is when I would have to go and clock in for work. I would work from 1 to 3 prepping for the day or the week's lessons. Around 4 is when the elementary students would come in. I would teach them for 3 hours at a time with 5-minute breaks at every hour, and the elementary school phase would be finished around 7 o'clock. Between 7 o'clock and 7:10, we would have 10 minutes to cram our dinner into our mouths before I had to run into the middle school evening lessons. The middle schoolers I taught from 7 p.m. all the way to 10 p.m. and they ranged anywhere from middle school first year, which is around grade 7, all the way to middle school third year, which is grade 9. I enjoyed teaching elementary school a lot more because in the afternoon, kids have a lot more energy. In the evenings, the middle schoolers were a lot more down. They were a bit lazy sometimes, kind of sleepy. So definitely we struggled a bit with the evening lessons. The upsides of working in a really corporate hagwon is that everything is structured. If everyone gets a day off on this day, everyone has to make up the days off on another day. Everyone works at 1 o'clock, everyone gets off at 10 o'clock, really sharp, no exceptions. Another reason why I really liked working at a corporate hagwon is that there is the funds already set for the materials. Anything that we need in the classrooms, whether it's tablets, any maintenance, books, vocabulary sheets, they're all provided for by the hagwon, and they are all standardized. So there have been teachers that have taught these modules before you or taught these similar lessons, and you can definitely look up their teaching materials, and it can be a great aid to you when you're a new teacher. The downside was I was basically not allowed to have any sick days because there was no one to sub my classes. I had bronchitis that year and I had a raging fever, and I remember teaching my classes sitting in my chair feeling really woozy, and honestly I didn't really get any sympathy from my academy because the working conditions in a lot of corporate hagwons are just really tough and can also end up being really toxic. Teachers tend to be overworked for a lot of different reasons, and a lot of the Korean staff I found would also be talking behind our backs. My Korean was still not that good in my second year in Korea, so I wasn't able to communicate that well with the Korean staff, but we had a couple of Korean American teachers that were able to sort of help us bridge the language gap. There really isn't a lot of creativity when it comes to this teaching system because this corporate hagwon has a certain brand. They have a sort of lesson flow that they are marketing to help the kids get their English level up at very steady increments, and also to help the students challenge IBT and also TOEFL testing at a very young age. Students are often very pressured because every 3 months or so they have to level up or they will watch themselves fall behind their peers. It is a little bit competitive in that aspect. I decided not to stay with the corporate hagwon because I just really didn't like how rigid it was. I wanted a lot more time to do creative things with my students, and I didn't really have that freedom to do that, nor did I have the space to do that either because the lessons were always so rigid. I would see the kids for 3 hours. The first hour we might do reading, the second hour might be answering questions and doing a little bit of writing, and maybe the third hour is project-based. And so the kids are cramming in a lot of English and a lot of different activities in a very short amount of time. So a lot of times I found myself skipping activities or minimalizing certain parts of the reading so that we can give the kids enough time to do their projects. However, what was really great about this system is that because the kids were always placed in such a competitive environment, the kids actually had pretty high English levels. The kids were able to communicate what they wanted to say to me and a lot of questions they had in class, and the older students, they had developed a lot of their personalities in English, which made it very fun to talk to them and connect with them. A lot of my favorite moments that I look back on when I'm teaching in South Korea were from this corporate hagwon, because a lot of the older elementary school students, they were able to exercise so much creativity and show so much of their personality. Now I wanted to talk about some of the downsides of putting yourself out there with your resume and getting yourself hired at corporate or local hagwons. When hagwons are hiring foreign teachers in Korea, obviously the ones that are already domestically based in Korea, they will give preference to because they don't have to spend a lot of time and energy flying a new teacher over from another country. As well, a lot of preference from hagwons will be given to native English speakers that tend to look more foreign. So for example, teachers like me, I'm Asian. I would be turned down for a lot of corporate jobs because I didn't fit the aesthetic and the visual that they wanted for a native English teacher. These kids, they're going to this hagwon for a native English experience, and that includes seeing foreigners. Otherwise, when it comes to kids with lower level English, if they see an Asian looking face, they will tend to default to Korean rather than using English. I had a lot of students meet me with disbelief when I was explaining to them that I'm Asian and I grew up in Canada, my parents are from Hong Kong, but basically English is my first language. And a lot of students sort of struggle with that because of the homogenous society that is South Korea. As a teacher, there are a lot of times when you see students that don't really want to study English that intensely. There are straight A students that will give their all when it comes to English. There are also students that just get forced into these academies because of their parents and because of tiger parenting. And when you're in these corporate hagwons, your job is to keep those students in those classes interested or at least enrolled so that they're paying. And I felt like that was one of the aspects that I didn't really like as much. A hagwon is a business and they need to keep the numbers up in all of the classes. If certain students are dropping out of the hagwon or dropping out of your classes, that will reflect poorly on you as a teacher. So anyways, this was my experience at a corporate hagwon. It was vastly different from the public school system and a lot more structured and a lot stricter than I imagined. I did enjoy my time there, and I'm really grateful for the experience that I got because the fast-paced setting really pushed me to be a more dynamic speaker and a more engaged presenter when it came to my lessons. but I left there after a year and ended up moving to a local hagwon. If you're interested in my experiences in a local small hagwon, tune in for my next vlog and don't forget to subscribe. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me until the end of the video, and I will talk to you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!